There's an earthquake happening right now beneath the surface of civilization, and its epicenter is a single idea so revolutionary that it threatens to topple every institution, every belief system, and every power structure that defines modern society. The possibility that ambition doesn't need hustle to manifest extraordinary results. This isn't just a lifestyle preference or a productivity hack. This is a fundamental challenge to the psychological, economic, and philosophical foundations upon which human civilization has been built for millennia. When ambition detaches from hustle, it creates a force so destabilizing that every system designed to control human behavior begins to crack and crumble. What you're about to discover about why this combination shakes society to its core will expose the invisible chains that have kept humanity trapped in patterns of exhaustion and desperation disguised as virtue and necessity. If you're ready to understand why the separation of ambition from hustle represents the greatest threat to existing power structures, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and tell me in the comments if you've ever suspected that the constant hustle culture was designed to keep you too exhausted to realize your true potential. The foundation shaking begins with what we might call the effort value equation that underpins all modern economic and social systems. For centuries, civilization has operated on the assumption that value is directly proportional to effort, that worth is measured by hours invested, that compensation should reflect time sacrificed. Ambition without hustle shatters this equation by demonstrating that exponentially greater value can be created through wisdom, timing, and strategic alignment than through sheer effort and grinding hours. When this becomes undeniable, the entire justification for current compensation structures, labor arrangements, and economic hierarchies collapses. Society's foundations shake because ambition without hustle exposes what might be called the productivity illusion, the carefully maintained myth that constant activity equals meaningful achievement. Every institution, from schools to corporations to governments, depends on people believing that busyness and productivity are synonymous, that motion equals progress, that visible effort indicates valuable contribution. When ambition manifests without hustle, it reveals that most activity in modern society is actually counterproductive. Busy work designed to keep people too occupied to question the systems they're trapped within, but the deepest tremor comes from how ambition without hustle threatens what we might call the control economy, systems built on managing human desperation and exhaustion. When people believe that achieving their dreams requires relentless grinding, they remain perpetually depleted, anxious, and dependent on external systems for security, validation, and opportunity. Ambition without hustle demonstrates that extraordinary results can emerge from people who maintain their energy, clarity, and independence, threatening every mechanism designed to profit. From human depletion and dependency, the foundations shake because this combination challenges what might be termed temporal colonization, the systematic appropriation of human time and attention by institutional demands. Modern society has normalized the idea that most of people's waking hours should be claimed by work, commuting, and work-related recovery. Ambition without hustle proves that profound achievements can emerge from people who maintain sovereignty over their time, choosing when to act based on wisdom rather than responding to external demands based on fear or obligation. Society trembles when confronted with what this reveals about manufactured scarcity, the artificial creation of limited opportunities to maintain competitive desperation. When ambition requires hustle, people must compete aggressively for scarce positions, limited resources, and finite recognition. Ambition without hustle operates from abundance consciousness, often creating entirely new categories of opportunity rather than competing within existing constraints. This abundance approach threatens every system that depends on scarcity to maintain control and extract value from human desperation. The foundations crack further because ambition without hustle exposes the sacrifice narrative that justifies so much human suffering. Society has built elaborate moral frameworks around the nobility of sacrifice, the virtue of suffering for your dreams, the heroism of grinding yourself to exhaustion for success. When someone achieves extraordinary ambitions while maintaining health, relationships, and joy, it reveals that much of this sacrifice might have been unnecessary, not noble, but tragic, not virtuous, but victimizing, not heroic, but simply the result of limited thinking and dysfunctional systems. What shakes society most profoundly is how ambition without hustle demonstrates strategic power that institutions cannot control or contain. Traditional power structures can manage people who need constant external motivation, who depend on hierarchical approval, who require institutional validation. But ambition without hustle operates from internal authority that doesn't need permission, doesn't seek approval, and can't be controlled through conventional incentive structures. This independence represents a fundamental threat to any system built on human dependency. The tremors intensify because this combination reveals what might be called systemic inefficiency disguised as necessary process. Institutions have developed elaborate procedures, requirements, and barriers that serve primarily to maintain institutional power rather than to produce optimal results. Ambition without hustle often bypasses these inefficient systems entirely, achieving superior outcomes through direct paths that make institutional gatekeeping appear obsolete. When people recognize that institutional processes often hinder rather than help achievement, those institutions lose their legitimacy and power. Society's foundations shake because ambition without hustle threatens the meritocracy. Myth: the belief that current social hierarchies reflect fair distribution of rewards based on effort and ability. When someone achieves more through wise action than others achieve through desperate grinding, it exposes that merit, as society defines it, might be largely irrelevant to actual achievement. This revelation threatens the psychological justification that allows people in privileged positions to believe they deserve their advantages, and people in disadvantaged positions to believe they deserve their struggles. The destabilization deepens through what this combination reveals about energy extraction systems. Modern civilization has evolved elaborate mechanisms to harvest human energy and channel it into activities that serve institutional interests rather than human flourishing. The education system extracts energy through compliance training, the corporate system through employment arrangements, the consumer system through manufactured desire, the political system through fear and division. Ambition without hustle demonstrates that extraordinary results emerge when people reclaim their energy for self-directed purposes, threatening every extraction mechanism. What truly rocks society's foundations is how ambition without hustle exposes the productivity prison, the psychological cage built from beliefs that keep people trapped in dysfunctional patterns. People believe they must work harder to earn rest, must sacrifice more to deserve success, must prove their worth through exhaustion. Ambition without hustle demonstrates that rest enhances productivity, that ease enables achievement, and that worth isn't something to be earned, but something inherent. These revelations threaten to unlock the psychological chains that make current exploitation possible. Society trembles because this combination challenges identity foundations that billions have built their sense of self around. Many people derive their primary identity from being hard workers, from their work ethic, from their willingness to sacrifice and struggle for their goals. Ambition without hustle threatens this identity by suggesting that the struggle itself might be the problem rather than the solution. That work ethic, as currently defined, might be a limitation rather than a virtue. that there might be entirely different ways to build meaningful identity. The foundations shake because ambition without hustle reveals collaborative potential that competitive systems suppress. When achievement doesn't require desperate individual grinding, people naturally discover that collaboration often produces better results than competition. They find that sharing knowledge multiplies rather than divides opportunity, that helping others succeed creates conditions for their own success. This collaborative potential threatens every institution built on the assumption that human beings are fundamentally selfish and must be forced to cooperate through external pressure. What causes the deepest tremors is how this combination exposes temporal manipulation, the ways systems create artificial urgency to prevent strategic thinking. Institutions benefit from people making decisions based on immediate pressure rather than long-term wisdom, from reactive desperation rather than strategic clarity. Ambition without hustle operates from extended timeframes and patient strategy, making decisions that serve long-term flourishing rather than short-term survival. This temporal sovereignty threatens systems that depend on human impulsiveness and reactivity. Societies' foundations crack because ambition without hustle demonstrates natural law alignment that makes artificial laws appear unnecessary. When people achieve extraordinary results by working with natural rhythms, psychological principles, and creative forces, it reveals that many institutional rules and requirements serve primarily to maintain institutional power rather than to produce optimal outcomes. This recognition threatens the entire basis of institutional authority and legitimacy. The destabilization intensifies through what this reveals about potential suppression, the systematic limitation of human capability to maintain manageable populations. If people discovered they could achieve far more with far less effort through wise action rather than desperate grinding, they might stop accepting artificial limitations, might stop believing they need institutional permission to pursue their dreams, might stop trading their potential for security promises that systems rarely deliver. This awakened potential represents existential threat to any system built on human limitation. Perhaps most threatening is how ambition without hustle exposes the meaning crisis embedded in productivity culture. Many people have invested their entire sense of purpose and significance in their work, their grinding, their sacrifice. Ambition without hustle suggests that deeper meaning might emerge from creative expression, authentic relationships, personal growth, and contribution to collective evolution rather than from job titles and career achievements. This alternative source of meaning threatens to empty out institutions that depend on being people's primary source of purpose and identity. The foundations shake because this combination represents what might be called consciousness evolution, the emergence of new forms of human awareness that make current social arrangements obsolete. Ambition without hustle isn't just a different strategy. It's evidence of expanded consciousness that sees possibilities invisible to conventional thinking, that operates according to principles that transcend current limitations, that embodies capabilities suggesting humanity's next developmental stage. Society trembles ultimately because ambition without hustle proves that human potential is vastly greater than current systems allow or encourage. It demonstrates that people are capable of extraordinary creativity, profound wisdom, and remarkable achievement when they're not trapped in patterns that serve institutional interests rather than human flourishing. This proof threatens everything built on the assumption that human beings need to be managed, controlled, motivated, and directed by external authorities to contribute value and live meaningful lives. The earthquake continues because once people witness that ambition can manifest without hustle, they begin questioning everything else they've accepted as necessary or inevitable. If achievement doesn't require grinding, what else might be optional? If success doesn't demand sacrifice, what other trade-offs might be unnecessary? If ambition can flow naturally from aligned action, What other aspects of modern life might be forcing rather than flowing? These questions shake the foundations of civilization because they threaten to reveal that much of what we call society might be elaborate systems of control disguised as protection, exploitation disguised as opportunity, and limitation disguised as structure.